it's Thursday. Now, I think it's pretty standard practice to use a double strand of yarn to make projects bigger. But that got me thinking, how many times can you just add a strand of yarn before it stops making any real difference? Now, in the past, I have done videos on how you can resize the pattern itself, but today I'm going to be focusing on the actual strands. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by making the same shape. First with one strand of yarn, then with two, then with 3, 4, 5, etc. until it stops getting visibly larger. And my personal theory here, aided by the calculations from Mr. Bones, is that after about 4 strands, we're going to hit some real diminishing returns, where we're just not going to be able to notice that much of a shift between, for example, 4 strands and 5 strands. For anyone who's interested, this is the formula that we used. The square root of the number of strands multiplied by the dimension of the original. So I'm going to start by just whipping up a test, a 3D swatch, if you will, using just a single strand of yarn. Okay, so this is how the single strand turned out. It is 3 centimeters by 3 centimeters by 3 centimeters. And it's going to be our control, just to see how much size we actually gain by adding extra strands. So I'm going to go ahead now and make the same shape using a double strand of the same yarn. Hook size will make a difference here, as it does have an impact on overall stitch size and tension and all that jazz. But I don't really want to focus too much today on the overall impact of hook size as a variable. So for today, I'm just going to be moving up through the hook sizes as needed. I will make sure to keep track of what I use though, just in case it becomes relevant at any point. Okay, so now we have 2 strands here. So you can see the size comparison there. We've had an increase of about 43% so far. So it's not doubled. That's important. Now the most strands I've ever worked with is probably the rug that I'm currently sitting on. It's below my craft area, and that was 11 strands, but never anything close to that big for an amigurumi. Also, I do know that bulky yarn is a thing, and I could just go buy bigger yarn, but it is way more cost efficient and space efficient for me just to keep all of the colors of one type of yarn and then just be able to be flexible with it and apply it to multiple situations. So it's occurring to me that I'm using multiple strands of yarn, which hypothetically means I could use different colors for this. And I know that that's not a ground-breaking thought. So I'm wondering if we could use our multiple strands to fade from one color to another. Just by swapping out one color at a time. You know, create a little gradient or ombre type of effect. Anyway, so I'm going to try that with our 3-strand square and just see how it turns out. Success! Look! Ombre, or as Mr. Bones likes to say, dithering. So I think that was a raving success. It's quite pretty. And it's way easier to get a smooth color or smoother color blend from one color through to the other than you would get with a single strand and a bunch of controlled color changes. So that's cool. We are going to continue straight into 4 strands though and just keep this moving. And according to the maths, this next one should actually be double the size of the original. And I'm going to continue to play with color blends because it's making me happy. Another. Maybe just one more. So I think I'm gonna have to move up to an 11.5mm hook for this one because the last hook I used was 9mm. But I also just have to acknowledge the fact that I might have to move up to my prop hook. This is an actual hook, it's 15mm, but normally I just use this for like thumbnail images. But it is here as a backup, but we're gonna try with the 11.5 first and see how we go. And the gradients have been great fun, but I think I'm just gonna do a little rainbow one now. How is it like this already? Okay, I think that's probably far enough. Each extra strand is giving us kind of less than 1 centimeter of like growth in any one direction at this point. And while you can still tell the difference to look at them, that one, like you can tell one is bigger than the other, it is becoming so much harder to work with, and I've nearly exhausted the size of hooks that I have. So I think this is where we're going to stop for now. But there's something kind of nice about the blobby texture. And I'm really glad that I swapped to just like an all-in multiple coloured version as well, just to use up like the scraps of yarn that I had to cut off to create my controlled colour changes from the others. It's like, cool, no yarn wastage, and he's blobby and rainbow and happy. So with 6 strands, we basically have a pixelated version of our original that's roughly 2.5 times the size. It's actually technically slightly bigger than that, but roughly 2.5 times the size. So here are our squares. Because we've basically crocheted a bar graph, here's what that looks like. Each strand we add is making less difference to the overall size of the crochet, which makes sense. When you're going from 1 strand to 2, you're doubling the overall material you have to work with. When you're going from like 5 strands to 6, and proportionally, of course, that's not going to change much. I'll pop a little chart on the screen here just in case it is useful for you guys to know exactly how much of a size difference each strand has made, including what hook sizes that I used. You might be able to use that for projects, I don't know. But there was something else that I was wondering. What happens when you start mixing the number of strands of yarn that you're using in the same project? So what I'm thinking is that we're going to start with our block pattern with 6 strands of yarn, and then just sort of ditch one of the strands at the end of each row and increase the number of stitches in the subsequent rows accordingly to keep the shape the same. Success. So there that is. I'm pretty pleased with how that turned out, actually. This has some interesting implications. Between this and like those bricks that we were making, was it last week or the week before? Just like, I have so many new things to play with. But I think this was pretty easy because of the shape we were making, not because the technique itself is particularly easy. Because I knew that I had to keep it to a square, it was easy to kind of space out where the extra increases needed to go and that sort of thing. But I do think that this has potential to create some really interesting like scale textures in future, maybe. Yeah. And it's fun because it's like squishy on one side and like kind of not on the other. So it's like kind of, it's fun to handle. Okay, so as a final test for all of this, I want to take one of my existing patterns where we already know how big it turns out with one strand and incorporate some of the stuff that we've been experimenting with today, just to see if it does in fact give a predictable result. And the pattern I think I'm going to use for that is the little snail from the 12 Days of Crochet from a couple of years back. I love the little snail. Look, I was thinking about potentially changing this plan from doing a 6-strand project down to a 4-strand project because the 6 strands are kind of painful to work with, but we just need to like soldier through this, I think. So I'm going to give 6 a go and just see how we do. So I'm going to start by using 6 strands of yarn and an 11.5mm hook to work up the main slug. Now I did pick this pattern because it uses a variety of stitch techniques in it, so I do think it's going to be a really solid test to see if this technique is actually suitable for resizing more complex patterns. So you may notice he's missing his shell. Hold on, we've officially run out of time for this project. You may notice he is missing his shell, but Mr. Bones has come to the rescue with that idea because I'm sitting here going, oh no, I don't have time to make a shell.
I mean, suggestion about the shell. You've got 4 of them ready to go.
Yeah.
5.
Yeah, I thought about that, but I'm worried it's cheating.
It's not cheating.
Because like this would be a spectacular.
Yeah, that's a really cool shell. Oh, I love that. I love that. It looks like a piece of coral.
Yeah, okay. You're convincing me on this. Mr. Bones for the win! And he pointed out that I have all of these wonderful shell-shaped bits all over my desk. So I'm going to cobble something together for him now. And there is our finished snail. And I'll put our predictions up on the screen. I don't remember what we were aiming for here. Well, this whole project has certainly given me a lot of interesting notions for future projects. I mean, between this and the bricks that we made a couple of weeks ago, I have a tool chest full of things that I cannot wait to try out. And hopefully you guys picked up maybe a couple of interesting things too. But yeah, other than that, I will see you in a couple of weeks. Okay, bye.